The WNBA may have just sent Angel Reese a brutal message without saying a word, and the numbers make it impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever have officially done something no franchise in league history has ever pulled off. All 44 regular season games landing on national television. That's not hype, that's history. And for a player who spent the last 2 years pushing the idea that she's the main reason fans are tuning into women's basketball, Angel Reese didn't even break into the top 5. That alone is a massive reality check. But believe it or not, it gets even more shocking, because after that humbling spotlight moment, reports started swirling about Reese's emotional reaction behind the scenes, and what happened next only turned up the heat. Even more surprising, one of her own new teammates made a statement before the season even tipped off that has fans raising serious questions. If you thought this was just about ratings, think again. This is turning into something much bigger. Drop a comment below and let me know where you stand. If you're riding with Caitlin Clark, comment Baby Goat. If you're backing Angel Reese, comment Baby Giraffe.
Networks like CBS, NBC, ABC, ESPN, they make the decision as to which teams will be featured on their respective networks. And yesterday, they sent a very clear message to Angel Reese. You are not a
44 games. Every single Indiana Fever regular season matchup in 2026 is set for national television, something the WNBA has never seen before. No team has ever received that kind of full season spotlight. Now really think about what that means. Networks don't hand out wall-to-wall coverage for no reason. They don't clear that much premium airtime out of loyalty or to make a statement. Moves like this are driven by business, by demand, by hard data, because somewhere behind the scenes, executives looked at the ratings, studied the audience numbers, saw the momentum, and decided the Fever were worth betting on in a historic way, and that tells you everything.
Angel Reese is now quoted as saying, "I'll look back in 20 years and be like, yeah, the reason why we're watching women's basketball is not just because of one person." She refuses to say Caitlin Clark's name. "It's because of me too, and I want you to realize."
And this isn't just a couple of minor cable networks taking a chance on Indiana. This is a full-scale media takeover. Disney is all in, with 13 games on ABC and 17 more on ESPN. Amazon Prime is on board. NBC Universal has joined the party with games across NBC, Peacock, and NBCSN. USA Network is involved. ION is carrying games. CBS and Paramount Plus are in too. Think about what that really means. Nearly every major media powerhouse in the country has come to the same conclusion. Indiana Fever basketball is premium television, and these are billion-dollar corporations making billion-dollar decisions. They don't invest based on emotion, they invest because the numbers demand it. Now, why Indiana? That's where this gets even bigger. Because before Caitlin Clark arrived, the Fever weren't exactly a national obsession. They were missing the postseason, attendance was average, and no one was battling for the rights to broadcast their games. Then Clark entered the picture in 2024, and everything changed almost overnight. Ratings exploded. Fever broadcasts started pulling audiences comparable to some NBA games on those very same networks. That got attention fast. Advertisers started circling because the audience tuning in was exactly the kind brands spend huge money trying to reach. Suddenly, women's basketball wasn't just growing, it was generating numbers that completely changed the business conversation. And once those spreadsheets started telling a different story, the floodgates opened.
Sorry, young lady, nobody knows who you are. Nobody would be watching the WNBA. Additionally for you, this is all about Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is bringing the money to the game, the planes to the game, the TV viewership. The WNBA is on fire because of Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark has helped turn the Indiana Fever into the must-watch team in women's basketball, but it's the talent around her that makes this machine so dangerous. Aaliyah Boston is a force inside, drawing double teams and still finishing because of her elite instincts, quick reads, and polished footwork that often goes underrated. Kelsey Mitchell brings another layer of pressure, flying off screens and knocking down pull-up mid-range shots that defenders struggle to contest because her release comes so fast. Lexi Hull takes on the toughest perimeter assignments night after night, doing the dirty work without needing the spotlight. Then you add Sophie Cunningham off the bench, bringing physicality and edge that can completely shift the rhythm of a game. Put all of that around Caitlin Clark, and opposing coaches can't just key in on one player and expect to shut Indiana down. There are too many weapons, too many problems to solve, and that's what makes the Fever so exciting to watch. It's not just star power, it's great basketball. And that's exactly the kind of product networks want to put in front of a national audience.
History has already been made. Before a game has been played, Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever cementing their status as must-see TV. The cash cow, the money maker, the golden goose, the golden ticket, the savior of women's basketball.
And then there's the in-arena factor, which matters more than people realize. Gainbridge Fieldhouse holds more than 17,000 fans, and because it's a true NBA venue, a sold-out Fever game looks massive on television. The visuals hit differently, the camera shots feel bigger, the crowd noise jumps through the broadcast, and the energy translates in a way smaller arenas simply can't match. And that matters because advertisers aren't just paying for viewers, they're paying for spectacle. They want atmosphere. They want electricity. A packed NBA arena gives them both. Now put everything together. Caitlin Clark's proven ratings power, a roster loaded with matchup problems, and a game environment built for television. And every Indiana Fever game becomes a premium product networks can confidently sell. These aren't filler broadcasts tossed into random time slots hoping someone tunes in. Every one of those 44 games carries weight. That's why this number matters so much. 44 isn't just a schedule quirk, it's a statement. It's the market showing exactly who is driving attention in the WNBA right now, and right now, that spotlight belongs to Indiana. But when you look beyond Indiana and start breaking down the full broadcast rankings, another story starts to emerge. And one player in particular may not like where she ended up.
I meant it when I said Atlanta's going to be lit, not just on the court, but off the court. They do a great job at the Gateway Center of selling out tickets, but they're going to be able to move games to State Farm Arena where the Hawks play now because of the Angel Reese effect.
What? Excuse me?
Now look at the rest of the national TV rankings, because this list feels less like a schedule release and more like a league-wide report card. Indiana leads the way with 44 games. We've already covered that. Right behind them, the Dallas Wings land 36 national broadcasts, fueled by the buzz around Paige Buchers and 2026 #1 overall pick Azzi Fudd. Then you've got the New York Liberty Super Team with 35. The defending champion Las Vegas Aces come in at 33 behind reigning MVP Aja Wilson, and the Los Angeles Sparks follow with 31. Now read that again and let it sink in. Dallas got 36 nationally televised games built around two players who haven't played a single pro game together yet, not one. Paige Buchers and Azzi Fudd are generating that kind of confidence off potential and chemistry alone, and networks still decided that deserved more airtime than Angel Reese and the Atlanta Dream. That's not some small oversight, that's a message. It tells you exactly where the market sees momentum right now. It tells you where networks believe the excitement is, and more importantly, it tells you where their confidence and their money is being placed. Clip.
Everybody's getting paid more money. They got to figure out how they going to make some of this money back and all of that. And one way you can guarantee make a profit with these networks and turn over $1 is by putting Caitlin Clark in front of the camera on national TV as much as possible.
So where does Atlanta fall in all of this? The Dream come in with 28 nationally televised games, good for 7th in the league, behind every team we just mentioned, and even behind Angel Reese's former team, the Chicago Sky. And the gap between Atlanta's 28 and Indiana's 44 is massive. That's a 16-game difference, nearly a third of an entire WNBA season. That's not a narrow margin, that's a statement. For 2 years, Reese has pushed the idea that she's been one of the biggest forces driving the rise of women's basketball, that she moves ratings and shifts the culture. But the broadcast numbers just offered a very blunt response to that claim. And that response looks like 28, but honestly, the game total may not even be the harshest part. Look at the environments. Indiana plays in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, a 17,000 plus seat NBA arena built for major event energy. Las Vegas brings crowds into Michelob Ultra Arena. Those settings elevate a broadcast. Atlanta, the dream play in a much smaller venue in College Park that seats roughly 3,500. And yes, networks notice that. It affects how they value those broadcasts, how they package ad inventory, and how the games come across on television, because atmosphere matters. A packed NBA arena sounds bigger, looks bigger, and feels bigger. The crowd carries through the microphones, the camera shots feel grander, and the whole product has a different scale. Smaller venues just don't create the same television experience. And to be fair, this isn't solely about Atlanta. Even during Reese's time with the Chicago Sky, there were questions about drawing power, especially considering Wintrust Arena seats around 9,000 and wasn't consistently packed. That's part of the larger conversation too.
Something called the Angel Reese effect, which no one's ever heard of besides L. Duncan. This mysterious effect, it is going to cause the Atlanta Dreamers to move home games out of the Gateway Center, which is primarily used to build computers when the unknowns in the WNBA aren't using the building to pretend to play basketball. The popularity of Angel Reese, the demand to see Angel Reese miss layups is so strong. The WNBA will be moving games out of the Gateway Center and into an actual NBA arena.
Advertisers don't just pay for eyeballs, they pay for the full broadcast experience, and atmosphere plays a huge role in what those ad spots are worth. A game coming out of a small arena with fewer seats than some high school football stadiums simply doesn't carry the same value as a sold-out NBA caliber venue. That means Atlanta's arena situation isn't just about appearances, it has real business consequences. It impacts the value attached to every home broadcast, and that absolutely plays into where the dream fall in the league's media hierarchy. Because Angel Reese's argument has always been that she can generate interest on her own, that her star power, her personality, her brand are enough to pull attention no matter the circumstances. But the 2026 TV schedule basically put that claim through a live market test, with real dollars and premium airtime on the line, and the results were telling. Atlanta landed behind a young Dallas duo that hasn't even shared a professional court yet, and behind a Sparks team that hasn't consistently been at the center of the league conversation in years. That placement may be the clearest verdict yet on the whole face of the league argument. But to really understand how Atlanta ended up in this spot, you have to rewind and look back at what unfolded during Reese's 2 seasons in Chicago.
The last 2 years, Angel Reese played for the Chicago Bravado, right? In terms of professional sports, even semi-professional sports like the WNBA, Chicago is a significantly better sports town when compared to Atlanta. In her 2 years with the Bravado, how many games were moved out of the Wintrust Arena, which is about the size of a local civic center in Wichita, Kansas? How many games were moved out of the Wintrust Arena into the house that Michael Jordan built called the United Center because of this so-called Angel Reese effect?
During Angel Reese's first season in Chicago, the Sky finished 13-27. In year 2, they slipped even further to 10-34. That's not just a rough patch, that's a clear trend, and it was moving the wrong way. And while Reese was piling up impressive rebounding numbers and earning all-star recognition, the team results kept declining. Yes, the production on the glass was legitimate. She was cleaning up rebounds at an elite level, and on paper, those numbers can make it look like a player anchoring a franchise. But there's another side to the story. While the individual stats stood out, the wins didn't follow. In fact, the losses increased. And eventually, you have to ask the uncomfortable question: when the box score tells one story, but the scoreboard tells another, which one matters more? Because at some point, that gap between personal numbers and team success becomes impossible to ignore.
About games that were moved because the Bravado were playing Caitlin Clark. How many games were moved into an NBA arena because of the increased demand to see me-bounds? According to my calculations, none.
Here's where the conversation gets more complicated, because a noticeable share of those rebound numbers came off Reese recovering her own missed shots. A missed layup turns into an offensive board, the rebound total rises, but the scoring efficiency doesn't move with it, and that's an important distinction, because there's a difference between creating production through dominant play and inflating a stat line through repeated second chances created by missed attempts. One reflects efficiency and control. The other can sometimes mask struggles as volume. That doesn't erase the hustle, but it does change how those numbers should be viewed, because piling up rebounds is one thing. Doing it while low shooting efficiency remains a problem raises a much different conversation, and those are not the same thing.
Go Reese, Spark 60! How about some preps? Let's get bang! I think people don't give her enough credit for her touch and finesse around the rim. Bang! 23%! No, that's not her field goal percentage. I know, I thought that too. That's their team's winning percentage. 9 and 30! Bang! What ice cream flavor is smooth, salty, and a little nutty? It comes with a side of hop skippity doo-doo! Butter pecan! Bang!
Tensions inside the locker room began spilling into the public conversation during the 2025 season. Reports surfaced pointing to growing friction between Angel Reese and several veteran players on the roster. One situation that drew the most attention involved Courtney Vandersloot, a respected veteran whose relationship with Reese reportedly became strained after Reese publicly questioned her in comments that multiple outlets described as pointed and avoidable. As the season went on, the situation around the team deteriorated further. It eventually reached the point where Reese received a suspension for conduct detrimental to the team, the league's formal way of signaling that behavior had crossed a line that could no longer be overlooked. When the trade finally happened, there wasn't much sentiment attached from the Sky side. The reaction wasn't emotional or drawn out. In fact, the organization moved quickly, reassigning Reese's number 5 jersey to incoming player Rickia Jackson almost immediately without any real pause in between. And in professional sports, that kind of timing says a lot. Teams don't typically move that fast with a number tied to a core piece of the franchise. They do it when they're ready to turn the page.
Well, the dynasty starts after you, not with you. Chicago Sky to Angel Reese. Woo-wee! I told you that AR disease ran deep. Nobody wanted to play with that. That is wild.
What unfolded in Chicago afterward is where the real context starts to come into focus. Before Angel Reese moved on, the league-wide perception was pretty consistent. Chicago wasn't viewed as a destination free agents were excited about. The narrative was that something about the environment made it a tough sell. Then everything shifted. After her departure, players like Skylar Diggins-Smith came in, Azura Stevens joined the roster, Dejanai Carrington followed, and suddenly, Chicago flipped from a place players were hesitant about into a team talent actively chose to join. That contrast is hard to ignore. The only major change between nobody wants to go there and this is a destination was the roster situation in that locker room. Now compare that with Indiana. When Caitlin Clark arrived as a rookie, the Fever immediately turned things around and returned to the playoffs conversation. Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell elevated their play alongside her, delivering career-level seasons. And through it all, there were no reports of internal conflict, suspensions, or public locker room issues. Just basketball and growth. The difference between the two situations isn't just in wins and losses, it's in how they functioned from the very beginning. One environment struggled with stability, the other stabilized quickly and started producing results.
You know who recognizes that Caitlin Clark is the face, the end-all be-all for this league? All of these television networks. You know why? All 44 of Caitlin Clark's games will be on national television this season. All 44, not 40, not 41, not 40, all 44 will be on national TV because the GOAT is the face. She's not a needle mover. She is the...
Networks and sponsors don't make decisions based on highlight clips alone. When they invest, they're buying the entire narrative wrapped around a player. The image, the environment, the reputation, and everything that comes with it. And when that narrative includes a conduct suspension, visible locker room tension, and consecutive lottery finishes, it becomes a hard sell for premium national promotion. Chicago learned that reality over time. Atlanta is now stepping into it. When the Atlanta Dream introduced Angel Reese at her introductory press conference, it was supposed to be the standard reset moment. A fresh start, new energy, smiles for the cameras, the usual celebration that comes with a new chapter. But instead of just a polished welcome, what unfolded was something else entirely. As her new teammates spoke one by one, the tone shifted. And whether intentional or not, those comments started to reveal something much bigger, sending signals to the rest of the league about how that locker room is already shaping up.
Actually, for everyone but Angel, how would you guys describe what it was like playing against
I mean, anytime Angel's been on the other side of the court, I think I've had about 30. Next.
Ryan Howard was the first to speak. When a reporter asked her about previous matchups against Angel Reese, her response came off almost matter of fact, like she was describing something she'd seen too many times to overthink. She basically said that whenever Angel is on the opposite side, it feels like she's getting around 30 points. No hesitation, no cushioning the statement, just said it plainly. And what stood out is that Howard wasn't trying to put on a show or take a shot. She was just describing her experience. But in doing so, she highlighted something that's become part of Reese's league-wide scouting perception. Teams feel comfortable scoring when she's involved defensively. That moment, during what was supposed to be a welcoming media setting, ended up sounding more like an unintended scouting breakdown. Any coaching staff watching that clip didn't need extra film. The message was already there. If Howard is guarding someone, put that action on Reese's side and let it flow. Then Naz Hillman stepped up next. Her version of a welcome didn't soften things either. She described Reese as annoying as hell, though the way she said it could be interpreted in that competitive sense. The kind of player who's physical, persistent, and constantly in your space. But taken together, the tone from both comments painted a picture that went beyond friendly introductions.
Angel's annoying as hell.
But calling someone annoying as hell can also just be another way of saying they wear you down over the course of a game. And in a press conference setting, that line between compliment and criticism gets real thin, real fast. Alicia Clark, often referenced for her defensive reputation in these kinds of conversations, offered a different tone entirely. She mentioned that she actually enjoyed matchups against Chicago because those were often where she produced some of her strongest scoring performances. And that matters because Clark is a proven offensive threat in this league. So when a high-level scorer says a specific defense brings out her best numbers, it usually isn't meant as praise for that defense. It's more of an honest reflection of opportunity. In those Chicago matchups during Reese's 2 seasons, Clark wasn't speaking in hypotheticals. She was describing games where she felt comfortable getting into a rhythm, almost like those contests became favorable scoring environments rather than difficult defensive battles.
I text Angel and I was like, I ain't gonna lie, last year I love playing against Chicago because I had my best games.
So if you step back and line it all up, a pattern starts to form pretty quickly. Howard talked about scoring freely when matched up with Reese. Gray described Chicago as one of her most productive scoring environments. Hillman flat out labeled her as annoying as hell. And all of this came out during a media event that was supposed to celebrate and energize the arrival of a new teammate. At that point, you're left with 2 possibilities. Either there was very little media preparation going into that press conference, or the players involved weren't particularly interested in polishing their words. And what makes it more notable is who these comments are coming from. These aren't random opinions from outside observers. These are players who spent 2 full seasons competing against Reese, studying her game firsthand, and now suddenly find themselves on the same roster, sharing the same locker room every day. Whatever the intention was, the overall tone from that press event didn't exactly come across as welcoming or warm.
So the Atlanta Dream teammates basically said, we were able to do anything we wanted at absolute will. We became Jedis on the court against the Chicago Sky. We just thought about cooking their ass. Shit started roasting on the court. We started cooking ribs and chicken right there on the court.
There's a clear bit of irony in all of this, and it's hard to overlook. Angel Reese spent 2 seasons in Chicago where the storyline often included public tension, criticism of veterans, a conduct-related suspension, and a reputation for being one of the loudest personalities in the room. Fast forward to Atlanta, and the tone hasn't exactly reset in her favor. At her introductory press conference with the Dream, veteran players didn't deliver the usual soft welcome speeches. Instead, comments surfaced suggesting she struggles defensively and can be be difficult to deal with on a day-to-day basis. In other words, the same kind of energy she was once surrounded by in Chicago now seems to be reflected back at her. Only this time, she's the one on the receiving end. And structurally, the situation around her was already defined before she even stepped on the court in Atlanta. 28 nationally televised games, a smaller market arena with limited capacity, and a clear drop in broadcast priority compared to the league's top draws. The environment was set long before the introductions were made. Meanwhile, across the league, every major network involved in the 2026 WNBA media rights deal ran the same evaluations, rosters, ratings history, market demand, and arrived at a consistent conclusion. Indiana, led by Caitlin Clark, lands 44 national games. Atlanta sits at 28, behind rookies and even behind a Sparks team still trying to regain relevance. And that's really the point. The league's broadcast decisions aren't built on narratives or self-promotion. They're built on audience demand, who people actually tune in to watch when the lights come on. The results of that calculation are already public. If you've got a take on it, drop it in the comments. Support Caitlin with Baby Goat or back Reese with Baby Giraffe. And if you want more breakdowns like this, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next.